On Face the Nation, Senator John Cornyn said the Intelligence Committee hasn't decided whether to grant immunity to General Michael Flynn, the president's former national security advisor. Flynn asked for immunity late last week, and President Trump said he supported that request. Let's bring in John Dickerson, our chief Washington correspondent and anchor of Face the Nation. It was interesting this week that the president basically encouraged Flynn to seek immunity. How should we interpret that?
Well, I think the president's critics see this as much more smoke that leads to the what they basically, since they're the critics, hope is the fire, which connects the president's team or the president himself with the Russian efforts to influence the election. Another way to look at this, though, is in a highly partisan environment where there are two congressional investigations and an FBI investigation, that Mr. Flynn may have exposure in some way based on his other business dealings, which we're still learning about after he left the White House, and that in order to limit his exposure, his smart lawyer is trying to get a deal, and that it basically has more to do with the exposure that General Flynn has than the exciting quality of what he may have to say.
I want to turn now to the Supreme Court as well, John, before you go. The Maine independent senator, Angus King, who's considered a key swing vote on Judge Neil Gorsuch's nomination, says he hasn't decided. He told you he doesn't know whether he'll vote on the nomination, how he'll vote. What are you watching for as we get closer to vote this week?
I think what we're watching for is basically whether the Republicans can get enough Senate Democrats to avoid having to invoke the so-called nuclear option, which is to say changing the Senate rules to make it so that Neil Gorsuch could be confirmed with a simple majority rather than clearing the 60-vote threshold that would be necessary in the case of a filibuster. The Senate doesn't change the rules very often, and this would be a big one, and particularly given what Senator McConnell, the Republican leader, and even Senator Cornyn have said about changing the rules like this. They both said it would really hurt the institution. So it would be a big deal. And so it looks like that's where we're headed, and it's another sign of, in a partisan age, where we thought we'd gotten partisan in every possible way, this will be a new way, and you can't go back once you do it.
John Dickerson, thank you.
Thanks, Rena.